Greetings, and welcome to another video inside Oddiowave Records studio. I'm DJ Oddio, Oddio, and today I'm going to be going through how I mix the drums on the Stella Farms Riddim. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Oddio, do we really need another tutorial on mixing drums?
Well, yeah.
But on my YouTube channel, what I'm trying to do is make videos for my viewers. And I got a comment on one of the first videos I made asking if I could go through how I mix drums and how I mix vocals. I already did a video on mixing vocals, which you could check out here. Today I'm going to be going through on that same Riddim from Stella Farms, how I mix the drums. So let's get into this here. Here are the drums in context with the Riddim. So there you have the basics of the Riddim. If I take you in here to the drum pattern in Midi, these drums were produced on my Midi keyboard here, on these pads. So I use these pads to produce these drums. As you can see from the pattern, here we have hi-hats, one of the snares, the other snare, and the kick, along with some crashes. And this is with all the processing and everything on it. If I solo the drums and let you just hear it by themselves. I really enjoy playing drums on pads. I actually started off on a simple drum machine. My first drum machine was a Boss Dr. Riddim DR660. Boss is a division of the Roland company, Roland Corporation. I cut my teeth on that drum machine, began using it when I was 19 years old. That was 1999. And I graduated from the DR660 to my first MPC 2000 XL. Later on, I eventually also purchased a MPC 2500 XL, later a MPC 1000, all of which I bought and then sold. Lately, I have been using the step sequencer in Logic Pro. It's another way to do it. This particular beat, I used the pads. I went back and cleaned up a lot of the timing. As you can see, the coloration, the different colors of these notes being played indicate velocity. Here the velocity is 69. Here it's 100. Here it's 35. It's higher. This between one is lower because it's kind of like a the beat on this one goes. The up and down in the velocity makes it feel more natural, seem a little bit more like it's being played by someone, not a computer. As far as mixing goes, really, when you produce and you're laying these out, it starts here. Even before you start splitting the tracks and mixing hi-hats, snares, kicks, which we'll go through now. After my pattern's laid out and I have all my velocities set on how I want the drums to hit, then I go in and start doing some mixing. These drums here were played on a sampler through those pads, written to Midi, and then they go out to these individual tracks: kick, hi-hat, snare, snare 2, open hat. It's my tom, a couple crashes. And these all go to a summing track. This little plus minus here adds more tracks to the multi-output. So what that means is each one of these stereo tracks that I have here, like for these chimes, my percussion, my keyboards, my piano, each one of these stereo tracks has an output that goes to the stereo main output. When you create a drum channel, a drum track, when you're setting it up, you go up here. When you're adding the track, if you're doing drum kit, you want to go to multi-output. So instead of stereo and it going to the main stereo output, it goes to this multi-output. And what that does is it creates multiple channels, multiple tracks, which you could even add your drum kit pieces: kick, hi-hat, snare, open hat, tom, crash. And from here, what I do is create a summing track. Summing tracks, group tracks, VCAs, they're ways of taking multiple tracks and sending them to one output. If you're going to be going through and putting a compressor on all these tracks, or if you're taking pieces of the rhythm like pianos and guitars, you start grouping these tracks together and send them to one track. I prefer to do a summing track. What I mean by that is if I take this piano along with this other Wurlitzer classic and my Rhodes and my organ, and I want to send them all to one place, I would come up to my track, create track stack. Track stack, summing track, it's a multi-purpose track stack that mixes its subtracks and can be saved as a patch. So when you send them to this one summing track, it's similar to a VCA, except with the VCA, if you do that, it will add a track here at the end past your stereo out. There's just another way to do it. I prefer to do these summing tracks. It puts it right here with the others, and you could see it, and you can minimize it so you got them all together, maximize it, you have them all separate, and then on this track you can pull up a mix rack. I like to first give it some reverb, make it seem like it's in a room, and it gives it that feel where all these instruments are being played in a room together. So why this is important with drums is when you have all these individual tracks playing, if you send them to a sum and you give them something like this SSL native bus compressor, it has the desired effect of gluing the mix together. And with drums, you know, if you want it to sound natural and real, you want it to feel like it's all being played together, not kicks here, snares there. Start separating those. Now, if I pull up the mixer and I show you all of my drum tracks, one thing they all have in common is they all have the SSL channel strip and nothing else. And all I'm doing is EQing, shaping the sound, making each individual piece of the drum kit sound the way I prefer. If I hit the 360 degrees button and pull up the mixer, you can see the dynamics processing that's going through on these drums. So they are getting a bit of compression and dynamics as well as being EQ'd. So here you see my snare, both snares. So from the drum sum to the crash, these are my settings on EQ. You can see the kick. I actually go down on the highs and up on the lows. No big surprise. Take out a little bit of the mid-range that was making the kick sound boxy. So I tune that a little bit. Same with the hi-hat as far as tuning goes, but kind of the opposite, where the lows go down and the highs come up. The snare, the other snare, open hat, so on and so forth. And then here we have also the compressor. So for the drums, you know, you want to have a slower attack. And then my drum summing track, I put the compressor on here, which glues it together. Slow attack. I put the release to auto on this one. You know, it's just got to be fast, but It just does a really great job of bringing everything together, making it sound as a cohesive unit. So if I solo those drums again and we listen to them, they really sound whole, they really sound full, they really sound cohesive and together. Now you might have heard the way the snare rang out on that last one with that heavy reverb. That's something I like to do on a lot of my drums. And that's done through automation. Here, these sends. So the send on the snare here, if I solo the snare and play it for you, you also hear that echo, that delay. That's a tape delay. And it's always on there, and it gives a little bit more like body to the sound and having that ring out. Here, let me play them all together again. Do it kind of subtle, so it's not too much, but it's still there and kind of echoes back on itself and feeds back after some time. On a lot of these drum sounds, I send them to a bright reverb. This is just a Logic Pro X stock plugin called Rack Spring Bright. It's a bright reverb, and it's great for drums, especially the hi-hats and for those whipping snares, that whoosh type of sound. The springiness is what you really want in that. So another important part of the drums are the drum rolls. If I play these together, so you hear that roll, the ba-da-ba-ba-ba. My drum rolls here, you can see these are all single hits that are samples that I actually placed these, and going through a lot of trial and error, putting some here, putting some there, these middle ones, squeezing them a little close together, a little far apart. Every single beat that I've made when I do rolls like this pattern, the setting, the placement of these is different every single time. There's no, of course you don't want to put it on a grid, but there's no like, oh, I got it right and it's going to be the same next time. It's always fucking different. It's always fucking different. So these are 4 different drum samples. And of course, this first one plays first and last. All different velocities, 63, 64, 86, 102. And what you get is this. Right? Fits great. Makes the drums feel so much more natural, so much more real, like someone's actually playing them. And it's really one of the coolest parts of reggae songs are those drums. So let's listen to this again with nothing soloed, the drums in context with the rest of the beat. I love the way that echoes too. So it has that spring reverb, but it also has the echoes, automations brought up a little bit too. So when the drums are gone there, it keeps the snare ringing. You also might have heard percussion in here, like these chimes. Right? beautiful. Anyway, those are really key important ingredients in making a beat as well. Percussion, like this kete drum is played live. These chimes were actually played. These shakers, all this stuff. Flexitone. I have these percussion instruments. I mic them up, I play them. It makes a huge difference to have some performances like percussion in your beat. Make it sound more natural, more real. For reggae, that's what we want. I'm gonna put this drum beat as a loop on my Patreon page, so it'll be free to download. If you want to take the loop, I'll actually do the whole song. It's about 4.5 minutes. You can take it and remix it and put your own music to it, do your own thing with it, or sample the drums or do whatever you want. I'll also put some of my percussion sounds up there. So if you haven't already gone to my Patreon page, that along with unreleased music, instrumentals, beats, anytime I do one of these videos and I have something like this, I'll put the drums in there that I use so that you can go and try some of these techniques for yourself and also have fun with them. Give thanks. I appreciate you being here for another video. Hopefully you learned something from this. My aim is to give information and share some of the knowledge and techniques, some of the skills that I've developed over time. And like I said at the beginning, yeah, of course, there's a lot of drum videos out there. I learn a lot from watching YouTube videos myself. And one thing I know is that just about everyone I watch, I'll learn something from. Even if it's something that I think I know, I'll check it out and maybe pick up something that a producer, an engineer, a musician is doing that I never thought of, or some little shortcuts in some of these DAWs. If there's anything that you want me to cover, anything that you're interested in, or any questions, leave a comment down below. Also make sure that you subscribe and look for more videos. Again, from DJ Oddio and Oddiowave Records, give thanks.